Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for June 14th through 20th. This week I read 2 books, I watched 2 shows, I watched 1 movie, and I listened to 3 books. I promised that one day, now that I'm back in Canada, I'll actually film in front of my own shelves, but I was called away from home unexpectedly, so here we are. The first book that I finished this week is The Otherwoods. This is a middle grade book about a non-binary character who has always been able to see these monsters and ghosts that come into their world, but they've never wanted to interact with that, especially because nobody else can see them. And then occasionally they'll always see this thing where it looks like they could go into this set of woods that they know is definitely creepy and they don't want to go into it, and it seems to pop up out of nowhere. However, at some point circumstances change and they end up having to follow into the woods, otherwise they might never see their new friend again. This is full of twists and turns and feelings and betrayal and what it means to be a friend, and I really enjoyed it. The other book I read with my eyeballs this week is The Secret World of Briar Rose. This one is billed as a Sleeping Beauty sapphic retelling or reimagining. And in this one we have 2 point of view characters. One of them is Coben, and she lives in kind of the aftermath of an empire falling. Her parents are no longer in the picture. She's scrimping and saving in order to provide for her little sister. However, recently her little sister went missing because they had an argument, and we don't know what that's about until a little bit into the book, so I won't tell you about it. The other perspective or storyline is about 100 years previous, although there are certain sections that are longer ago than that, and they concern this woman named Amelia, who is our Sleeping Beauty character. It is foretold when she is a baby that she is going to prick her finger on a spinning wheel when she's 18 and go into a sleep, because the demon that did it has a beef to do with her godmothers. At this point she spends all of her time in a dream world, and Corinne actually ends up in that dream world while she's looking for her younger sister. I do want to acknowledge that this was written with the author's depression in mind, and there are messages in this I definitely stand behind. Unfortunately, the book itself didn't really hit for me. There were certain things to do with the writing that I just didn't really enjoy, and I don't particularly want to harp on it. I was really excited for this one. It could have been better. As for the shows I watched this week, the first is the first 5 episodes of Harlan Coben's Shelter. This is about this character who has recently had to move to this small New Jersey town because he and both his parents were in a car accident. He actually saw his father not make it out of that situation. His mother has been institutionalized because she suffered with depression all of her life, so she's living with an aunt. However, in addition to all of this girl that he's been seeing, who is also new to the area, disappears, and he tries to figure out why. With the help of a couple of new friends, one of which is very interesting and weird, and I very much enjoy him, and then the other one also has a lot of a backstory going on. This was kind of hokey and ridiculous, and it is based on at least the first book of a trilogy written by Harlan Coben, you might have been able to guess. And this was just something we kind of put on for fun, but I also kind of want to see how it ends. The other show we watched was the 2nd episode of the 18th season of Jetlag, which isn't out on YouTube until Wednesday. This is a fun time. I don't know what it is about the audacity of these people who can just show up and be like, hey, our flight's in 45 minutes. We're totally gonna make it through boarding, right? And I'm just like, what? Honestly, I as the viewer get anxiety just watching that. This season is called Stateside Scramble, so they're trying to collect as many states as possible, but in order for them to count they have to be connected to each other, and there's only a certain amount of states on the board at a time, so they can only go to certain states to try to collect them by doing the challenge in the state. It's fun. The first episode is up on YouTube. You should watch it. The movie, or should I say documentary, that I saw this week is either called The Pig Farm or The Picton Farm. I didn't put it on. I didn't see what the actual title was, but both of those things show up in the title sequence. This, of course, is about the infamous Canadian serial killer Robert Pickton and his pig farm. This one was shot in very stylized ways. A lot of the close-ups were very, very close-up on these people. Like, we're talking cut off here, like right up in there. And then some of the footage was degraded in certain ways because we are talking about a case from the 90s and early 2000s, so I think that's why they went with that. But also there were interviews with, say, one of the police officers who was on the case, and that just looked like they'd done something to it, and I don't know how to describe it better than that. This, however, did have audio from Pickton himself, because apparently at some point in his life he was just telling a tape recorder his life story, so they took some of that. It was interesting. I learned a little bit more than I hadn't learned about it before, but I have also previously read the biography of a cop who worked somewhere on this team who later also transitioned, and because it is such a big case from near where I live, I kind of knew a little bit about it beforehand, but this definitely covers some key factors. As for the audiobooks I listened to this week, week. The first one is Can't Spell Treason Without T. This is about two women who are seeing each other on the sly. One of them works as a royal guard for the queen, and the other one has this really unique position that is only given to one mage at a time, where basically she is the most powerful mage. The queen in this queendom is trying to get her on her side to basically come work for her, which wouldn't actually be the greatest thing in the world because this queen is kind of corrupt. And one day something happens which forces the woman in her employ to be like, you know what? I don't want to be here anymore. So she just dips in the middle of the night, meets up with her girlfriend, and they decide they're going to do the thing that they've been talking about doing for ages. They didn't really know that they were serious until this exact moment, but that's move somewhere where the queen can't find them and open up a book and tea shop. And that's what happens. This is absolutely delightful. I love this cozy type of fantasy, and I love them getting to know all of these characters in this small town and just seeing what they need and providing that. It was just so good. There is a second book. I am planning to read it sometime soon. This week I also listened to a book called Flawless Girls. This is about two sisters who are meant to go to the same finishing school, and one of them on basically the first day goes, I don't actually want to be here. Something happens and she leaves. And when her sister comes back, she is incredibly changed and then disappears. So that first sister decides to go back to that school and try to figure out what happened. What happened is a bunch of magical realism stuff that I'm not going to try to explain here. Here's my thing. Every time I come across a synopsis for an A.M. McLemore book, I'm just like, this sounds great. I'm going to really enjoy this. And then when I get down to actually reading it, sometimes I really enjoy it, and sometimes I'm like, there was something about this that I can't really figure out what didn't work for me, and I hate that because I like to be able to talk about why something didn't work for me. I think it's because the why of things was never really fully explained, or at least explained in a way that I really got it. But what I can say is I really enjoy the fact that the character that we're following this whole time is intersex, and information about that kind of comes into play at points, which I found interesting. The last audiobook I listened to this week, and the final book for my personal TBR for the Queer Lit Readathon, is Mistakes Were Made. This was perfect and messy, and I loved it. In this book we have two points of view, and the first one is Cassie. She's 21, she's a senior at her university, and she's basically trying to dodge this family weekend thing that's happening because she doesn't have a good relationship with her mother. She never knew her father. She just basically wants to have some fun this weekend while her best friends are off doing things with their own families. So she goes to a bar all the way across town, has a couple of drinks, makes eyes at this woman, and things go really well, to the point where they're in the bathroom together and then they're in that woman's rental car together. As you might be able to guess, our other character is Erin, and she is the other woman in this very steamy rental car situation. And it turns out that she's in town also for this family weekend, but the reason she wasn't with her kiddo that night is because her and her husband are divorced, so basically it was his night to take the kid out to dinner, and then this morning she's taking the kid out to breakfast. So she goes to breakfast and her kid shows up with a friend who is Cassie. So this is a little bit awkward because unbeknownst to both of them, Erin and Cassie hooked up, and Cassie is one of Parker's best friends, and Erin is Parker's mom. From there, they kind of try to deny their attraction to each other, but they really can't, and situations keep pushing them together, and then they keep making rules, and they keep breaking those rules. Like I said, this is messy, but I absolutely adored it. There's so many points in this where you're like, are they going to get caught? What's going to happen? It's so much, but it's so good. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you happen to be on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that, as always, is down below. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!